thank you everyone for coming in. I'm so glad that you joined me today. I'm actually really kind of excited about this class, and that's a little bit different for me because when it comes to organizing, I am so not the guru on that one. But lately, especially with everything that's been going on for the past couple of months, my house has become like something I don't even recognize anymore. So when it was time to come up with classes, this was one of the ones that actually kind of made sense for us to do to try to get everybody back on track with everything that we're going through. So I want to welcome you. This is Prosperity Connection. Hopefully you've heard of us before. We're a local nonprofit here in St. Louis, and we do these online classes all in an effort to make sure that we are getting you information about how to best handle your money and your credit. And this is part of that process that we're doing. If you're joining us here and you want to turn on your camera so I can see your faces, that would be great. It helps me feel like I'm not just sitting here talking in a room all by myself, which I do enough of as it is. I do want to let you know that we are recording this class this evening. We do have it on a special record, so we're only recording the active speaker and not anybody who's just watching. So as long as your microphones are on mute, you don't have to worry about being recorded as a part of this. If you miss anything or you don't have pen and paper handy in order to take notes, we will be replaying this on our YouTube channel. It should be available in about 24 hours or so. So let's go ahead and get into it on this one. My name is Hope. As I said earlier, I am a financial education coach here with Prosperity Connection. And no, this isn't me, although that's kind of what my office looks like. I just kind of shoved it all off to the side so you guys couldn't see it on camera tonight. But yeah, that's kind of what it looks like. And yeah, on the opposite side of the spectrum, this is not me either. In fact, I would never, ever be accused of even being slightly related to Martha Stewart. And definitely not related to Marie Kondo either. In fact, I don't know that I've ever known anybody that looked that happy when they were cleaning and folding clothes. I can't really wrap my head around that or compute it. And the only thing that I can think of lately that sparked joy in my life is ordering DoorDash and having them come to my door with a great big bag from Soul Taco. So that leaves me. And as I said, I'm a financial education coach. I do these classes as well as one-on-one financial coaching. If you want to get in touch with us, if you have questions about the class that you're going through today, or you would like to start financial coaching for yourself, my phone number is there on the screen. You're welcome to give us a call. We'd love to talk to you in person as well as these classes. Throughout the class today, there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions. All you need to do is open up your microphone. I'll be happy to talk to you on that one. You also have the chat box on the side of your screen if you want to use that one. I'll be honest with you, I'm very easily distracted. So I'm not going to be doing a lot of watching on the chat. I will get a notification if you're writing something in and I'll try to pull it up, but I'll probably do that when we actually break in natural sections. Okay? Anybody have any questions as we get started right now? And that would be crickets. Okay, let's go ahead and get started for us then. So why are we focusing on getting organized right now? I mean, if you look around at the world and what's happening with us with the pandemic, politics, everything that's happening with the unrest, it's so easy for us to be overwhelmed. And one of the things that tends to happen when we get overwhelmed and we get emotional is that we start to let things slide. We start to let things slip away. Nobody's really coming to our houses right now, so who cares if it's a mess? And who cares if I make the bed? Who cares if I do these things? That's all pretty natural. And it's probably something we've all been working with, right? But one of the things that we can't afford to have happen is to let that same kind of slipping happen with our finances. As things start to slip, all of a sudden it becomes harder and harder to keep up. More mistakes are getting made, and those cost us money. And with the way things are right now, costing money is something we want to avoid a lot. I was going to say like the plague, but we're kind of going through one of those. So why do we focus right now when there's so much other stuff happening? Organization seems a little bit like a luxury, but it's really not. It's really important right now with everything that's going on that we take care of ourselves. The rest of the world is demanding a lot of energy from us. It's demanding a lot of attention. It's distracting us on all fronts. And so what we need to be able to do is take care of ourselves and be able to make sure that we're taking care of our business so that we have the energy to go out in the world and do the things that need to be done. So getting this and being overwhelmed, one of the things I wanted to focus on with this one is to say, look, this is something you can do. Okay. There's a lot of things we can't control, a lot of things that we can't take care of out in the world. But this one thing, organizing ourselves, is one thing we can do to keep ourselves safe and keep ourselves ready to keep doing what's necessary for us to do. So, how do you want to get started today? So when we talk about organizing finances and all that sort of stuff, you want to start big or do you want to start small? Anybody have any thoughts? No, you don't care where we start as long as we get started, right? All right. So what we're going to do with this one, let's start with the mess. Okay. So if you're anything like me, you probably haven't seen your desk or your tabletop in probably weeks, if not months on this one. You probably have junk mail piled up in a corner. You probably have stuff in your front seat of your car. You probably have stuff on your couch and probably stuff in the corner of every room in the house. So let's take this first part first. Let's look at the mess and see what we can try to do. And we'll start small. I do want to let you know everything that we're doing here tonight, everything that we're going to talk about, it's not rocket science here. We are looking at simple, easy steps that we can do just to sort of take control and cut through some of the clutter and the chaos. So there's nothing that's groundbreaking or earth shattering here. I'm not going to give you like world science you've never heard of before. These are very simple tips. You may have heard them before. You may have used some of them before, and maybe these are something completely new. So if you've gone through and you have questions, by all means, let me know. So let's start with number one. Let's start small. We're going to start with picking a landing spot for your mail. Okay. You walk in the front door, you have a handful, you walk into the kitchen, you drop it on the kitchen table. It has your bills, it has the circulars for this one. You have the receipts from the stuff you bought, and that ends up in the living room because you moved it over there, and then it moves into your office, but maybe not all of it. So that sort of motion back and forth, we want to try to make sure that we're controlling that one. And the best way to do that one is to pick a landing spot. So I want you to choose a place, look around your place, and see what you have close to your front door or whatever door it is that you enter into from your house. Okay. It might be an entry table, and no, mine doesn't look like that at all. um, and probably yours doesn't either. But I want you to find something that's close into your house, close into the door, that when you walk in the door, the first thing you do is you put it down. And think about it the same way that you would your keys. I mean, if you've ever lost your keys or tried to find your keys when you're heading out the door and you don't know where you put it, this is the same thing, only this time we're talking about your finances and your bills. So we want to make sure that that's coming into one central location. So find a chest, a table if that's close to your entry, a dresser. If not that, you can do something as simple as a small end table or a small table, like a side table. And I want you to think about where you're going to corral that mail, what you're going to put it into. You can use a basket. You can use a bowl. You can use a plate. You can use any kind of a holder that you have. Even a shoebox will work. Whatever you have that you can put on top of that table so that you know that this is exactly where your mail comes to when you come in the door. That's where you drop it off. It doesn't go to the kitchen table. It doesn't go downstairs when you're getting changed and taking it out of your pockets. Everything gets dropped right there at that table. You know exactly where it's located at. You want to make sure that it's big enough that it can hold probably several days, if not a week's worth of mail. So you want to make sure there's a big enough spot for it. And do yourself a favor, make it be something that looks a little bit nice. You're going to be looking at this every day when you come into your house. And while I'm not the type of person that goes all guru on anybody, something nice that you can put your bills in just makes it feel a little bit better. Okay. So something that you can drop in, put something next to the door. Okay. Any questions? I mean, does that make sense to everybody? Everybody looking good? Not.
Yeah.
All right. Is that something that you currently have at your house, what you're putting stuff in?
No.
Aha. Okay. So does that sound like a tip that would interest you or something that you could use?
No.
Oh, come on now. Do you have a place that you can use?
Yes, but I feel like as an adult, I need to, go ahead and take care of it. If I toss it in a basket, it's like I'm tossing it away.
Right. But think about it this way. Are you taking care of that bill right when you walk in the door?
No.
Okay. So having a place where you know it goes to, when you're ready to take care of it, it's right there. It keeps it in a place where you can find it versus trying to spend time or waste time trying to figure out where you placed it. So it's not about trying to put it off. It's about trying to find a way to put it in a spot where you know exactly where you need to go.
Right.
Maybe that's not by your front door, or maybe that's in your office instead. But just think in terms of where you want to place something that you know it's intentional. Okay.
Right.
So you're not wasting time later. Okay.
Okay.
And make it look nice. You're going to be looking at this a lot, so make it look nice.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Any thoughts? All right. Couple of things to keep in mind. Keep it close to the front door or where you enter. The point behind this one is that the less times you have to touch that, the less you have to carry it around, the more likely it is you're going to be able to find it. Okay. And the less time you're going to have to spend moving it from here to there. You also want to make sure that whatever you're using to corral this, whether it's by your front door or in your office, that you're making a commitment each week to clean it out. You're right. It doesn't do any good whatsoever if you just junk something somewhere and you never look at it again. You
Hmm.
have to make a commitment to yourself that you're saying, no, this is where it's staying until I'm ready to take care of it, when I'm ready to do my bills or to organize. The other thing I want to point out for this one is make sure you have a trash can nearby wherever you're putting this. Okay. You're going to get a lot of stuff. I know I do in the mail. I get circulars. I get advertisements. I get junk mail of all sorts. I get newspapers being taken out as well. So make sure when you walk in the front door or where it's close to, have a trash can in that area. Just toss the stuff you don't need right away. Don't try to file it. Don't say you're going to look at it later. That's just more time that you're wasting. Put it in the trash where it belongs. You're not going to be using it. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Next up, second big tip, find a landing spot for you. So we kind of looked about where we're going to put the mail, but I want you to look at where you're going to put you when you're doing this one. So a lot of us sort of have desks or kitchen tables or setups where we're doing it, and we're doing multiple setups. But I want you to think in terms of, this is my financial spot. This is where I'm setting up my office. So if you think about it, if you're going to go out and create like conquer the world on your finances, if you're really going to get serious about this and be like, yeah, let's do this one, you're going to need a base of operations. And that base of operations needs to have everything that you're going to need nearby. So again, instead of trying to go into the kitchen where you've got your pen and papers, and over by the couch where you store the mail, and over by this area where you've got the lamp so you can read what you're doing, I want you to think about setting up your headquarters right where you're at. Okay, so find a spot in your house where you can actually set this up as a workspace for yourself and dedicate that. Why? Because it helps you keep, again, all of your paperwork together and everything is close by to what you need. Now, as you take a look at where you're at, really doesn't matter what you decide on. That's, every one of us is different. We all have different needs. We all have different ways that we like to handle things. So maybe you like to be in the living room. Maybe you have a little area over there where you can watch the kids and you can see what's happening and you like that action of being in the middle of the activity. Maybe you think that's distracting and you need to be someplace that's quiet so you can focus on what you're doing. Maybe you have an extra bedroom in the house. Wherever works for you, find a spot and set that up as your financial workspace or your financial office. Because all of the stuff that you're going to need to be working with is then going to be in one spot. Like I said, doesn't matter where. You've got an office in your house where you're already doing stuff, great. Go ahead and set up a little area for that one. If you've got a spare bedroom that you're not using and you want to set a desk in there, that's fine. The kitchen table works fine as well. And even, yeah, the laundry room would work as well. I know one of my clients has a little folding table that she uses when she's in the laundry room, and she loves sitting down, doing the laundry, and then doing her bills as a part of that while she waits for the laundry to get done. She says the sound makes it much easier for her. She's able to concentrate. Personally, in this house, I don't know. You could choose wherever you want. I just noticed over on the right-hand side, the guy has his own inside sauna going on. So, hey, That's a nice house. So pick wherever it's good for you on this one, wherever works for what you're trying to do. What you need in your workspace, wherever it is very simple. You need a work surface. It can be a desk, it can be a table, it can be a coffee table, whatever's comfortable for this one. Just make sure you've got enough of a work surface or a work area on it that you can spread out. A lot of times we have problems on our desks where we've got the work from work and we've got financial stuff and we've got the kids' drawings and we've got our plans for our vacation next year, that sort of thing. Everything is kind of jumbled together. So find a work surface and clear it off because you're going to need room to spread out. You're going to need to be able to see everything you're working on. You're going to need a comfy chair on this one. You're going to need good lighting. So as you start to look at finances, that type of thing, it seems very simple, but just understand that a lot of that stuff is very small print. So make sure that you've got good lighting so you can see what you're looking at, not just guessing. You're going to need to have a trash can nearby on this one because you're going to be tossing a lot of documents. A shredder is also a good idea. If you don't have a personal shredder on this one, just make sure that you're putting them in a different box so that you can take that in to be shredded later. And you're also going to need storage, guys. Maybe not this much storage, but at least a little. And we're going to get into that here in a little bit. But as far as what you're looking at for a work surface, this is the basics. Anything else is extra. I do want to caution you as you're getting this workspace set up or you're setting them in an area. Whether you're using a laptop or a desktop computer, it's natural to have one in our office or our workspace. And it's very handy. You're going to be using it for part of what you do for tracking your finances. But I want you to be careful about that as well, because if computers are anything, they're great time wasters. You can turn on some music, you can watch a video, all of a sudden you're checking your email. It's easy to get distracted from what you're doing. And when you're getting distracted, it's taking up more time. So it's going to seem like you're taking a lot more time doing your finances or working on your bills. And number two, you can make mistakes. So yeah, you need one, but make sure that you're limiting the time that you're spending on the computer or that you're doing other things on the computer while you're doing it. Excuse me, kind of set that time aside. If you're done with your bills and you're ready to get up and move on, great, spend the time on the computer. Or if you're done with doing your bills for the day and you're like, I'm out of here, that's fine too. Close it up, go do something fine. Just don't try to multitask those two together. Again, what we're trying to do is save you time, focus, and energy so that these things that we're trying to do aren't taking forever. So limit the distractions, have some good music going on, grab something to drink, sit down with the bills, spend a little bit of time. Okay? Any questions? I mean, it sort of goes hand in hand. You need to have pens and paper, helps to have highlighters, that type of thing handy for you. Now that we've got your world domination headquarters, financial headquarters set, let's look at a couple other things here that we can try to do to sort of focus in more on what we're doing and focus directly in on the finances. So next up, I want you to make or consider making a date with your honey. And by your honey, I mean your money. Okay, I need you to show your money some love. It's just like a relationship. So we tend to look at our finances when there's something wrong, or we tend to look at our finances at the end of the month, and then we get discouraged by it, and we're not really paying a lot of attention. But I want you to start looking at organizing your finances every single week by making a date with your money. Okay? Because a lot of times here in financial coaching, we talk about make friends with your money, right? We want you to be friends with your money. Your money's good. We want you to have a lot of it. We want you to do well with it. We want you to be friends with it. But the truth of the matter is you already have a relationship with money. It might not be the best relationship in the world on this one. It might be the Jerry Springer of relationships that you have with your money. But you already have a relationship with it. And how good that relationship is depends a lot on the amount of time you're willing to spend on it. So a lot of what we've been talking about so far is free up time from other stuff so that the time you are spending on your finances is directly on this. Just like dating someone or being in a marriage, the more time you spend, the more respect you show, and the more consideration you give, the better you get back from what you're giving that attention to. And even though money's an inanimate object, it works the same way in a lot of ways. So I want you to think about what time you have. I want you to look at a calendar and set a date. Ultimately, on this one, what we want you to take a look at is building up a consistency. When you have a consistent schedule that you're looking at your money and you know, hey, I set it up for Tuesday night. Every Tuesday night, I sit down with my money. That consistency allows you to avoid mistakes, missed payments, extra charges. So it's saving you money. And it also helps keep you on track. So you're able to see when the money's due. You're able to see when the money's coming in. You're able to see when it's going out. And you're able to keep track of your goals and how close you are to it. And also that weekly date night allows you to see where you're at and what's happening with your money. So if something's coming up, a bill comes in that you're not expecting, that wasn't due, it gives you an opportunity to adjust your spending. It gives you an opportunity to adjust your bill pays or how that's going to happen, or to make sure that the automatic pay that you set up isn't going to bounce because this other bill came through. So we want to do it every week to make sure that we're building up a really strong relationship with our money. We know what's happening with it, where it is, what it likes, and what it doesn't. Next up, because we're kind of talking about this, is I want you to come up with a financial calendar. And this is different. You can use a regular calendar, but it's different from, say, like a bill pay kind of calendar. It will include bill paying, but that's not it. So a calendar, really, when it comes to financial success, is really one of your greatest friends on this one. In fact, if you don't like any of these other tips that I'm giving out, or they're just not useful for you, or you don't decide to do any of them, but this one can make a big difference. It gives you a really quick overview of what's happening with your finances. In just a very quick setup, you can see the entire month at one time. Make a financial calendar. Now, you can use like your regular old wall calendar, that's fine. You can go online and print out a calendar off of Google search for them. There are all sorts of different ones that you can choose. You like them big or small, show the month, show the week, however it works. If you are one of those people that really likes planners and notes and keeping track of everything, you're very much day to day, that set up, get a planner. That'll work fine as well. Anything that you can write in and that has the dates. Another option for you to use if you haven't thought about it is going to be your computer calendar. What I use personally, I use both that and a wall calendar myself. And a digital calendar is a great option here. So if you haven't started using this for your bills or for your finances, consider using that or checking it out as an option. What I want you to do with this one, whenever you're setting up this calendar, I want you to write in your paydays. I want you to write in all of your bill due dates, right on the calendar where you can see it. If it helps you, you can certainly use color coding so you know that your electric bill, your rent, that sort of thing are all one color. Your streaming services like Netflix, Hulu, maybe those are red. Loan payments might be blue. Anything to kind of help you track that across the calendar that you're doing. But write everything on the calendar, when it's due, when it's coming, when you're getting the paychecks to pay for it. And that sort of goes back to that setting a date that we just talked about. So when you're setting a date, you can add up everything in your calendar very quickly to be able to make sure that you're keeping track. Also make sure when you're using the calendar that you're writing in those online bills. So for instance, if you're getting online or email statements versus paper statements, sometimes you're just not opening up those emails. And it's easy to lose track of when they're due. So let's say your sewer bill is only due every 3 months, but you're not really keeping track and it comes in when you don't see it. It's easy to forget that and then miss that payment. Same thing sometimes with your water, sometimes with your annual payments as well. Things like your personal property tax, if you're paying certain insurance every 6 months, things like that can often be overlooked if you're not putting them into a calendar. And then you're able to plan for them ahead of time. So don't make sure you're not forgetting to write in all those online services. If you picked up things during the coronavirus where you're now paying for Spotify or music or streaming services that you weren't before, make sure you're putting those in. They're automatically coming out of your account or your credit card, but you need to make sure when they're coming due. Okay. Any questions about how to use an online financial calendar or a regular paper online calendar? Has anybody been using an online calendar?
I've tried to make one a few times. I think that the issue for me is like I realize that it actually takes a lot of work to make one of those. Like I have to go into all of my accounts and then check the due dates and all the other stuff. And so I do like the idea of sitting down one day out the week and getting that done. Because from my previous attempts, I realized it takes a lot of work to try to get this thing done. Uh, I would love to try to find a way to make this happen.
Sure. So one thing to think about as you're doing it, the first month, yeah, it can be a little bit taxing, and don't beat yourself up if you miss one or you forget one. Okay. The big thing is to start this month, whether it's doing an online calendar with Google or whether it's doing it on your paper calendar. Write down what you know. Because next month, when you switch over to the next one, you can look back at the prior month and say, oh, yeah, that's when the electric was due. Or, oh, yeah, that's when that was coming out. So it's going to build on itself. Don't let the fact that you think you have to do all of it at one time stop you from starting the process. Okay. When you look at Google on their calendar option, you have an option to put in how you want it to be, whether it's a reminder or a task or anything like that. Doesn't matter which one you choose. All you need to do is write the name and the amount that's due. Okay. Start with what you have. Don't let the size of it overwhelm you. Does that make sense?
It does. I'm sorry.
I don't know. She just like went off. Forget that one. I'm all right. One of the things, and that applies to everything, every tip that I give you tonight, or that any financial help or coaching that you get. Start with what you have where you are. Any little effort that you make is going to make that next effort a lot easier. So don't try to be perfect. Don't hold yourself up to that one. The first time you write a budget, the first time you try to do anything, including walking or driving a car, we were horrible at it, right? We got it all wrong. We crashed. We did all sorts of bad things. Don't let that stop you from starting the process so you can do this. Okay. It's going to make a big difference over time. And you're right. It does take a while to start out. And if you're not used to doing online stuff or you haven't done a lot with a calendar, start with a paper calendar. Start with something that you can just write down on paper. And then as you're getting used to that one, then you can transfer it to your digital or to your online. The nice thing about digital and online, the reason why I'm a big proponent of it and why I spend so much time doing it is because I like to set the reminders. I don't pay a lot of attention to that sort of check-in every day. So I like to be able to know that I'm getting an email or a reminder through my calendar that says, yeah, electric's coming up next week. Let me go check and make sure I've got that all taken care of and it's ready to go. Okay. Any other questions or thoughts? Everybody else raising their hand saying, yes, I'm definitely going to do this. All right. Try it out. I promise you, it will make a big difference in how you feel about your finances. Again, if there's one tip I can give you that's really going to make a difference in how things work, it's this one, a financial calendar that shows you when things are due and when you're getting paid so you can put those in alignment together. The other thing that I want to do for this one, this is sort of like a little bonus tip or a little extra tip on this one. And it's a little bit more advanced and it's going to take a little bit more time. But I want you to think if you haven't done a budget yet, a calendar is a really good way to get into a budget, to start a budget. And I want you to look at that calendar saying, okay, this is my tool for being able to plan out what's going to happen with my money. So a lot of times when we get bills, when they're coming due, we pay them when they're due, right? I mean, okay, gosh, I got to pay the rent. Gosh, I got to pay the mortgage. Gosh, I got to pay this one. Man, I can't believe that's due again. Didn't I just pay that? I mean, I'm pretty sure I just paid that water bill. What happened?
Right.
If you start looking at a calendar and mark out when the paydays are, we know those are almost always going to be in the same spot, right? So whether you're getting paid weekly, bi-weekly, bi-monthly, or monthly, you know when the money's coming in. We're all really good at figuring out when the money's coming in. So we know that that's a set time and a set space. It's bills that sometimes sort of stretch out across the entire month that get a little crazy for us. So electric is due on the 15th, gas is due on the 11th, the credit card bill is due on the 23rd, but none of those match up with when your payday is, right? So a lot of times we look at our bank accounts and we say, well, I got $300 in there, I'm good. But we're not seeing that longer 2 weeks from now when this is due before the next paycheck comes in. So we talked about making a date. If you don't make a date for your money every week, at least make a date with your money every payday or the day before your payday. Sit down with it, take a look at what's coming in and when your bills are due, and know what you're paying out of each paycheck. It's a pretty simple process to say, well, I know I'm getting paid here, and I know this is about how much I'm getting paid, and these are the bills that are going to be due before I get paid again. I'm betting pretty much every single one of you knows that right now, right?
Right.
Really no point. We tend to say, well, it's not due until the 15th. So I'm not going to pay it until the 15th. But you're not getting another paycheck before the 15th. So there's not going to be any more money in your account before then. So if you start taking a look at a calendar and say, okay, so this is my payday. These are all of the bills that are due before my next payday. Go ahead and schedule those payments while you have the money. When it's set, even if you're deciding not to do it necessarily that day. But I guarantee you no company is going to be unhappy because you paid them a week earlier than when it was due. And because you're now setting up your payments with when you're getting your money in, you're able to make sure that you're avoiding late fees or missed payments. And you're starting to plan ahead for how that money goes. It's tough to get started the first time. Sometimes it's like backing up. So we don't really have the money because we're paying some of those bills on the paycheck that's coming next, right? I'm not the only one that does that, right?
Right.
Okay. I'm kind of like robbing Peter to pay Paul. But one of the things that we're trying to work with here as far as being financially stable is to say, okay, I need to back it up. I need to put it back here. So I'm paying bills this month with the money I made last month. Does that make sense? So you're starting to now push ahead. You're getting one paycheck ahead of where you're at. And if you're using a calendar, you're able to sit down and say, this is when my payday is. These are the bills that are due before my next payday. And these are the ones that I'm just going to go ahead and pay, get them over and done with, so I don't have to worry about them. And I don't have to worry about late fees or missed payments or bad credit reports. Okay?
Right.
Make sense to everybody? Everybody good?
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions from anybody? All right. So let's take a look. What's next? Oh, yeah. Okay. Storage. So we talked about having storage in your office. Now we have made a place for where to put your mail so that we know where to find it when it's time to do the bills and time to get rid of all of the extra stuff. We've set up a dedicated office or dedicated space where this is where our finances and our money gets taken care of. We know that everything that we need is going to be in that area. We've set up a date to do it, so we know that we're going to be taking care of stuff in there. We've got everything on the calendar. But if you still look around at your desk, even though you've taken care of all this stuff, you still got all that paperwork, right? I mean, the bills are still there. They've been paid, but they're still sitting there. So one of the things that we need to make sure of as we're learning to organize our finances is we need to set up some storage for stuff. We need to set up some filing. So we have a place to put all of that paper. The stuff that we don't need goes in the trash or gets shredded. The stuff that we do need, we need to find a spot for it. So it can be pretty simple on this one. You can take a look and see what you've got. It can be a file cabinet. If you've got a file cabinet that you can use, great, that's perfect. If you don't, that doesn't mean you still can't file. So banker's boxes are good. They're nice and sturdy. They're portable. They're able to put in a couple of files. If you have one of the, there at the top of your screen, the accordion files, those are the things that I think probably work best for handling bills and different options or different paperwork that you need to keep. I know I can't be the only one that now has a whole lot of Amazon boxes somewhere around my house or other delivery boxes. So those can make good storage. Shoe boxes are good storage. Whatever you have available, go ahead and set that aside, mark a number on it or mark at the front with a name, and make sure that you're keeping your bills and the things that you need to keep in there. And when we start looking at what that is, there are some stuff you really do need to keep, that you're required to keep or that you'll need. And I've listed them all out on the screen here for you. If you have questions about that one, we're going to go into them a little bit each in depth. When we start looking at important papers that you need to keep on this one, that's a really big subject to go into. And we'll go into it a little bit more next week in next week's class when we start talking about financial planning for the future. But it also goes into a lot of bigger stuff. I don't want to go into that tonight. I don't want to keep you that long, but I do want to hit what's going to be important for you financially. So if you have a sheet of paper you want to take a note, great. Again, if you don't have that one, we're going to replay this one on our YouTube channel. You can look up then. It's really pretty simple. Any tax forms or documents that you have, you need to keep and in a record where you can find them. That includes not only your return, but your W-2, your 1099, any receipts that you may have used for tax purposes, any documentation you may have used for tax purposes. All of them you need to keep where you can easily find them, and you need to keep them for at least 7 years. So the IRS can do audits for you up to 6 years if they believe that you intentionally misled them, and you'll need to provide that documentation. So make sure that you're keeping those set aside for at least 7. Some people would say forever. I don't think it's that long, but just make sure you've got those records. And if they're spread out at this point in time, go ahead and put a file together for them. Bank statements and credit card statements kind of fall in the same category. Sometimes we think, oh, well, it's not important or I can look at it online. But if you need to access that information, it's a good idea to keep a paper copy of it. And you're going to want to keep those either in a paper copy or online saved into a file folder on your computer for 1 year. Okay, that's so that in case there's a problem or an error or a dispute that needs to be made, you have paper copies that you can then provide to whatever the creditor is or to the Consumer Protection Agency. You want to make sure you keep those as well as any agreements that you made with the bank. So if you open up a bank account, you open up a credit card, they sent you that agreement information for it. Make sure you're keeping that indefinitely in case you ever have questions about that or need to refer to it. Utility bill seems to be one of those things that not many of us keep. And I'll be honest with you, like I said, I'm not Martha Stewart. I don't keep those available a lot myself. I am trying to be better at it, but that's something you really want to keep available for you for a year. And again, if you notice there's a problem or you've been billed in error, you can then take that paper copy back to the utility company to make sure that you're doing it. So if you're not keeping a paper copy, make sure that you're at least keeping a record on your computer. Keep those in a file so that you can access them. After a course of a year, shred them, toss them, get rid of them. You don't need them anymore. You also want to make sure that you're filing away receipts for big purchases that you may have made. So TVs, computers, technical equipment, anything that has a warranty on it. You want to make sure that you're keeping that one indefinitely. And when I say indefinitely, I mean for as long as you own whatever that is that you have the receipt for, or as long as the warranty is good for. So make sure you're keeping that. If you bought a TV, you want to make sure that you keep that receipt somewhere where you can find it. Small receipts. You do want to make sure that you're setting up a file for your small receipts or you're having a shoebox that you're putting them into, because those things end up in the junk drawer, they end up in your car, they end up in the side panel of your car, they end up in your jacket pocket, they end up down by your washer. And I know I'm not the only one that's like, what is this receipt for? And it's been washed. I can't even read it anymore. But you do want to have a shoebox that you put them aside for or an accordion file. Make sure you're keeping them in case you need to make any returns. Generally, the length on those, you're looking at probably 30 to 60 days. Some companies allow 90, but make sure that you're keeping those and a record of them, whether it's on your phone, on your computer, if you got that via email or a paper copy. And always with all of this, understand, I know you can go online and find them. but trying to remember the date, the time, when you got that, what store it was, which credit card you used is a little bit harder. So as long as you've got the receipts and you brought them home with you, find a place to save them and put them aside. Does anybody have any questions or any thoughts about any of those topics? Anything you didn't expect? Anything you're not keeping that you thought you should have? Nope. Okay. While we're on the subject of coming up with files, as long as you're making the files, putting together boxes, that sort of stuff, a couple things to keep in mind. Like I said, this is a bigger topic. But if you're coming across and putting files, you might as well spend a little bit of time doing this one. Make sure that you are keeping a record of your birth certificates, finding and putting those in one place, your marriage certificates. If you got a divorce, make sure you're keeping your divorce paperwork or any legal documents regarding that one. Death certificates, copies of your insurance policies and your cards are a good thing to put into that file as well to make sure that you can access them if you need it or if you need to make a claim on your insurance. Any titles, deeds, or registrations that you've done. So for your car, your house, if you have a motorcycle, anything like that, make sure you're putting together a file to keep those where they're easy to find. If you or a family member are in the military, make sure you're keeping your military records. Any Social Security paperwork that you've received, as well as a copy and the original of your Social Security card are in a secure file. If you've received a monetary award from Social Security for benefits for disability, if you're receiving pension benefits, anything like that, food stamps, WIC, you want to make sure that you're keeping that award letter so that you have a record of it for anything that you may need to show. If you're trying to buy a house, if you're trying to dispute anything on your credit, that information is going to come in handy, and all of them are important documents for you to keep. Finally, any legal paperwork that you have, you want to make sure that if you've been dealing with an attorney, you're keeping those records indefinitely on all of these. Ultimately, with this one, make sure you have a copy. You may want to consider putting them in a fireproof box on this one or a waterproof box as well. With those and any financial documents that you should be keeping indefinitely with this one, the price on those is pretty cheap. So you can get them generally for about $45 to $50. They are locked boxes. You can also have them with the key code so that you're able to put that one in. So for a very small investment, you can make sure that your important papers that you're going to need both for yourself and your finances are kept safe. They also have these really neat little envelopes now. They're fireproof envelopes. So you can buy them in legal size. They're very soft, can fit into any regular file cabinet. And I think those guys are ranging about $10 to $15. So you get a lot of security for a little bit of a price. That was just kind of a side. Last tip on this one is to purge. So we've now done all of this stuff, right? We've now put it all in order. We've got this extra stuff that we don't need. We filed away what we do need. It's time to get rid of all of it. And this is something that we do a lot in like fits and spurts, or at least I do. I hope that I'm not the only one suffering from this one. I end up having like a ton of paper, circulars, magazines I've just been putting together until it's become this big, great, massive thing. And all of a sudden it takes me 3 times as much work to get rid of it at that point in time than if I'd just done it when I was there. So once you've gotten everything organized and filed, it's time to get rid of all of the stuff you don't need. Okay, don't let that hang on. Don't let that be something you need to do in the future that just keeps bugging you. So when we talk about purging, what to get rid of, we talked about what to file. Anything else that's left that has your personal information on it, you need to shred that for your own protection. If you don't have a personal shredder, there are other options for you. So you can check at your local bank or your local credit union. They often have 1 or 2 community shred days throughout the year where you can bring in your papers and they will agree to take those and place them into secure shred. It is also possible to do community shredding at some office supply stores at some times of year. They're very rare, and they're not always the easiest time frame to get to. They're normally only 1 day. But you can also pay to go to an office supply store if you're interested or you have a lot of paperwork that now you've gotten organized, you're ready to get rid of it. Now's a good time to do it. Office supply stores will do that for a charge. It's generally running about 99 cents a pound right now. on that one. So it just sort of depends upon how much you have as to whether it's financially viable for you to do. The other caveat that I would say with that one is when you take it into them, the office supply stores have a contract with an actual shredding company. So your documentation is going to be at that office supply store in a secure area, yes, but it's going to be sitting in their store until it gets shredded. So security on it is a little bit iffy. It's not a huge problem, but it's just something to be aware of. Again, if you're interested, it's available. If you have large amounts, let's say you've really gotten into this one, you're like, yeah, this organizing is great. Don't know why anybody would ever say that. But if you do, and you now have this, or let's say you've been moving and you have tax documents and personal documents from 10 years ago or so, and you need to get rid of that one. There are also local shredding companies here in town that will actually come to your house. They bring a shredding truck to your house and they'll shred it on site for you. Excuse me. You'll just need to check on the prices. It will depend always on where you're located and how much you have to shred. So anything that has your personal information, your address, your name, any account information, even things as simple as outside envelopes for advertisements that you may have gotten, make sure you're shredding those, not just throwing them away. All right, guys, that's my tips. Hopefully they've helped some or given you some ideas. Does anybody have any questions? Uh-oh, it's quiet out there again.
Well, no, I think you did bring up something good because, like you were saying in the beginning, like to put our mail in like a specific place, like a plate or something. Like I have a place to put my bills when they come in, but typically after I pay them, like I mark paid on them, and I just kind of like toss them somewhere. I don't know what happens after that point. I mean, they're on my desk at one point, but I don't know. I'm sure I'll probably throw them away and probably have like a bunch of my sensitive information on it. So I think that's a good idea to start spreading.
The other thing too, and maybe you've noticed that when I noticed it several times in the past year on this one, when I didn't take care of that file that I had paid, so I marked the bill pay on some of them, but not all of them. Sometimes I would be looking at my bill and I'd be like, is this month's or is this last month's?
Right.
And it seems like a simple thing, right? I mean, I can look at the date, but the amount of time that I spent just looking at that date and trying to find out and then say, oh, well, here, I'm putting this on this side of my desk. I don't need that anymore. And then later on, I came back the following month and it was still there. Little things like that, yeah, that will make a big difference in your overall time. More importantly, in how you feel, right? I mean, if it's done, if it's over, you need to feel good about paying that bill. You need to feel good that it's all set and done and it's gone. You're moving on with other stuff. And just feeling like that's not another weight you need to take care of. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts, any questions? Anybody else have any other tips? I mean, I'm open to learning too. So let's see if you guys can teach me a little something here that might help. Oh no, that got really quiet. Like, no, you're the one that's supposed to be telling us, right? All right. Well, thank you very much for coming, guys. I really am grateful to you for spending your time. I hope that I gave you something that can kind of help, especially with everything that's going on right now. We've had enough to deal with, enough that we're worrying about, enough that's taking up our attention. Let's use a couple of quick tips, save a little bit of time, and make sure that we're taking care of our business. If you've been interested in anything that I've had to say, or you've got a personal situation you'd like to talk about, guys, we do financial coaching as well. We'd love to talk to you personally. Everything that we offer here is free of charge. These classes, individual coaching, that's all taken care of for you. You don't have to worry. It's all free. If that's something that you're interested in, or something's come up on here that you'd like, well, hey, I didn't know that. I need to talk about some more. Give us a call. We'd love to talk to you. We'd love to meet you in person. It's great seeing you here on the camera, but I'd love to actually see a real live human being again sometime in my life.
Yes.
So my phone number's there on the screen. You can give me a call. So is our website. This is one of several classes that we're doing. We're doing them now every Thursday evening. on a variety of topics, and we're posting them on our YouTube page. So you can look us up on YouTube about this class and also about how to talk to creditors, how to form a budget, how to be mindful about your money, all sorts of different topics. They generally range from about 30 minutes to an hour. You're welcome to go check those out as well. Thanks again for being here. You guys have a great night. Take good care of yourselves. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time, okay?
Thank you.
You're welcome, guys. Have a great night.
You too.
You're welcome. Thanks for being here.
For sure.